Greetings and welcome to the Monday, September 16th edition of the Daily Article Podcast. I am Chris Elkins narrating today's Daily Article written by Denison Forum co-founder and CEO, Dr. Jim Denison. In his debate with Kamala Harris last week, former President Donald Trump stated that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio were abducting and eating pets. The comment provoked a furor that continues unabated this morning. It's easy to find opinions siding with Mr. Trump or against him and focusing on immigration as a threat or benefit to America. Here's what's harder to do. Find objective reporting about the religious context behind the controversy. After some effort, here's what I was able to discover online. A 2004 National Geographic article states that voodoo is the quote-unquote dominant religion in Haiti. A 2011 article explaining voodoo reports that, quote, food is one of the many offerings ceremoniously given to Loa spirits and is usually shared afterwards as a communal meal, end quote. An article opposing animal abuse notes that animal sacrifice in voodoo is a central part of this faith, while a 2013 report claims that the animal sacrifice isn't embraced by all practitioners. To be clear, reports that some voodoo adherents employ animal sacrifices does not mean Haitian immigrants in Ohio are doing so. My purpose is not to take sides in the partisan conflict over Mr. Trump's comments. Rather, it is to ask why the religious worldview that should be vital to the debate is largely absent from the discussion. In other news, Pope Francis made headlines by his statement that both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are against life. He stated that American Catholics must choose the lesser of two evils because of Mr. Trump's position on immigrants and Mrs. Harris' support of abortion. Now, consider another statement by the Pope. In Singapore, he declared, "All religions are a path to arrive at God." He added, "They are like different languages to arrive there, but God is God for all," end quote. With all due respect to the pontiff, this claim contradicts clear, historic Christian orthodoxy regarding the necessity of faith in Christ. I plan to address this fact in tomorrow's daily article. But this is receiving far less coverage than his statement regarding the American presidential election. Why is this? Most of us can recite Thomas Jefferson's famous statement in the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. However, in reading David M. Rubenstein's The Highest Calling, Conversations on the American Presidency over the weekend, I discovered a fascinating fact. Mr. Jefferson wrote the words sacred and undeniable, but Benjamin Franklin substituted self-evident in their place. As a result, our founding creed embraces truths that are evident to the self rather than sacred and thus undeniable. Here we see the early seeds of what became the postmodern rejection of objective truth based on biblical revelation. In its place, we privilege materialism and scientific secularism as factual and view objective morality and religion as subjective speculation. And we give far less cultural attention to the latter than to the former. Why does this rejection of objective truth and morality matter to our national future? In his latest book, Democracy and Solidarity on the Cultural Roots of America's Political Crisis, noted evangelical sociologist James Davison Hunter states that American democracy depends on cultural solidarity. Quote, a framework of cohesion within the legitimate political debate, discourse, and action take place, end quote. However, because we have jettisoned objective truth and morality, we no longer have the cultural resources to work through what divides us, end quote. He therefore predicts that the legitimate crisis will continue to harden, confidence in the range of governing institutions will continue to weaken, cynicism toward the leadership class will deepen, and the alienation of ordinary citizens from their nation will worsen, end quote. Then he asks, What is there to impede or reverse this course? There is a simple reason for insistence on tolerance is so appealing. It permits us to engage in unbiblical immorality while at the same time claiming the high moral ground by rejecting those who disagree as intolerant. Our cultural demise is the consequence of our cultural worldview. As a result, we should look for the answer to Dr. Hunter's question not from within our fallen society, but from outside of it. In Psalm 86, David prayed in verses 9 and 10, "All the nations you have made shall come and worship before you, O Lord, and glorify your name. For you are great and do wondrous things. You alone are God." Thus he prayed in verse 11, "Teach me your way, O Lord, that I may walk in your truth. Unite my heart to fear your name." God answered his prayer so that he testified next in verse 12, "I will give thanks to you, O Lord my God, with my whole heart, and I will glorify your name forever." All of this is on the basis of God's grace, not David's merit, according to verse 13, "For great is your steadfast love toward me." When we see God as he is, we see ourselves as we are. Then, in light of his omnipotence, we see our finitude and frailty. We respond to his steadfast love by worshiping him with our whole heart. Such holistic worship leads us to walk in your truth as we fear your name. Consequently, we glorify your name forever. Imagine the impact we would make on our broken culture if all God's people experienced him in such a transforming way. When last did you see God as he is? Thank you for listening to today's Daily Article podcast. If you would also like to read the daily article with its citations and references linked to their sources, find links in the episode notes to read today's article and to subscribe to the Daily Article email newsletter.